Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine, and you can find out more information on this at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today, I'm interviewing David Hirschfeld, and he's with a company called Tekyz. And we've been talking a little bit, and I'm incredibly impressed with some of the stuff that he's been doing. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a 35-year software veteran and UCLA physics alum. He's led at tech giants like Intel and Motorola before founding startups, including one sold in 2000. So congratulations on that. And since 2007, as Tekyz Incorporated's founder, he's advised 70 or more startups specializing in AI-driven workflow transformation and his launch first method. David, it's so good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And actually, now it's actually over 90 startups. I think I have a typo in somewhere in my bio. So it's over 90 startups during that period.
Well, that is just absolutely incredible. Well, what a backstory, and so tell us a little bit more about what your backstory is and some of the things you've done in AI and marketing.
My backstory was in software development, not necessarily in AI and marketing, because I started my first software company in 92 was logistics, route distribution, inventory management, and that company, I grew to 800 customers in 22 countries over the next 8 years and sold out to a publicly traded firm. So I was successful then with that first software company and exited. Then my next one was in 2005, and it was a wholesale trading network for auto dealers. That one failed. I didn't follow the same playbook as I did the first time. So I am your classic serial entrepreneur. I've had both successes and failures. And then I founded, out of the ashes of that, I founded Tekyz as a custom software development shop. And I would say that's a successful company. It's been 18 years, and we've worked with a lot of startups during that time. And the biggest problem that startups have is understanding their markets when they start. And that has led me into AI and developing a methodology for founders so that they can find product market fit quickly and start to generate revenue from their idea before even building the product, as a way of proving product market fit and to give them the ability to pivot quickly and cheaply in just a few months. And then use that revenue to fund development. And why that's important from an AI marketing perspective is because finding product market fit is such a complicated process. It seems like it shouldn't be if you know what you're building and and what the value of it is to your particular client. But it turns out that it's not as easy to confirm as a lot of people think it is when they go off and start software companies. So using AI to really nail down this early adopter and product is just a critical success factor for founders now.
Yeah, and absolutely. How true, how true. Yeah, thank you for that. So, one of the things that's really important is, how do you can automate the workflow within marketing or generally, but let's talk about marketing. And certainly AI can simplify that whole process. So tell us a little bit more about how that works and how it can, potentially even make, these workflows very accessible for non-technical users.
Okay, let's pick as an example a particular workflow. Let's say outreach, because I think this is where AI is going in a big way. First thing you do when you're trying to, let's say you're doing an email campaign or a LinkedIn campaign, it doesn't matter what it is, right? And you're trying to reach a target customer. The first thing you need to figure out is who is that target customer? And is that person really in a position to want to buy the thing that I'm trying to sell, whether it's a product or a service? And what signals are you able to find that indicate that they really are a potential person who would be interested, or maybe a channel partner that has a lot of people that might be interested that they could refer to? But there are a lot of these signals that because everybody has a social profile of some kind, public persona, and they comment on forums or they comment on people's posts or whatever, and you can start to get a sense, which AI is really good at taking all this information and assimilating it for a person and then scoring it in such a way that you can say, this person now is sort of at that threshold where I should start to connect with them. because of all this information that they have, these signals that they've pushed out there on the web, and because what their position is and what their authority to buy is, and things that we can assume based on their public personas. Then the next step to that is then crafting some kind of email drip campaign that speaks to them personally about all those signals that they have published publicly, which AI is great at this. And then AI is really good at then taking your voice that works when you're talking to clients, and creating the campaigns, the outreach campaigns in your voice, so that now once that client starts to react to that drip campaign, whatever that is, or that advertising campaign, and they reach out to you, it feels like they're just continuing the conversation instead of starting a brand new conversation with somebody because they might be interested. So where the end result of all this is, you end up possibly sending fewer outreaches to much more highly targeted, much more highly valued potential target customers. And this is where I see AI going. And people will appreciate getting those emails because it speaks to the things that they have said are important to them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly getting the outreach right. And I agree with you, a good drip campaign and just getting that personalized touch really makes a big difference. Now, one thing you talk about as well is, getting and discovering new insights and using AI for that. Tell us about how you've done that for like brainstorming or just even organizing your thoughts and brainstorming, generating ideas, and then even building them out and diving deeper into that.
Well, one of the most important things I think for a marketer right now who might see AI as a competitor, you should see AI as like your buddy, your best friend, the person who you can tell all your darkest secrets to and get insights about all. That's really kind of the relationship you want to have with AI right now, because AI is as something that you can leverage to make what you do so much better. And so I'll give you some examples, and I'm going to take this out of the context of marketing because I think it provides a really better understanding of what the value of AI is. I'll give you actually two examples because these are real world examples. They're both personal. So the first thing was almost 2 years ago when ChatGPT was only about 3 months old. My wife and I were standing in our backyard in our home in San Diego, which we had just bought. And we were thinking about, my wife wants to grow vegetables, and we eat a lot of vegetables. So she wants to grow them and she doesn't know how many raised beds she's going to need. And we start talking about it. And then her sister calls as she gets on the phone with her sister. So I brought ChatGPT up on my phone and I said, we're two people, we're in our early 60s and gave it some information about where we live in Vista, California, and considering the climate and our age. And we're not vegetarian, but we eat a lot of vegetables. And my wife wants to grow them all. How many beds would we need? And what questions should I even be asking? Anyway, so then it gave me a whole bunch of questions, and I thought they were all perfect questions. And so I had it answer the questions for me, and I liked the answers it gave me. Anyway, we had this conversation going. And by the end of it, I don't remember how many beds. It was like 8 beds or 7 or 8 beds that were 4x4 each. And it had exactly what should be planted. And it had a schedule based on season. And it said what should be planted in those beds and what companion plants should go in the beds. Because when you're planting vegetables, you have to grow them with other things that they like each other. And you don't want them to be growing things that are going to kill each other. Right. And then you also need companion flowers because certain bugs like certain vegetables, but there are flowers they actually like more, and you plant those flowers alongside the vegetables, and now it draws all those bugs off, right? And so it gave me a schedule for every season of the year, what should be in each bed, and then you have succession planting when you take stuff out of the soil. What do you put in that same soil? Because if you grow an onion, what likes to grow after an onion, right? And it gave me the whole plan in 5 minutes, this conversation we had. And then my wife got off the phone with her sister and I said, how about this? And her mouth just fell open. She could not believe it. She wanted to know how I was able to do that. I did it in 5 minutes. And this was 2 years ago. ChatGPT is way better now than it was then. That's an example where it becomes your friend, right? And you have a conversation with it. The other example We just went to the Gem and Mineral Show in Tucson, which is the largest show like that in the world. And we had a goal because when you walk into our house in our entryway, we wanted some really beautiful stone or mineral, either something that we could put up on the wall right in the entryway, or something that would stand up on the floor, like one of those big giant crystal amethyst agates. And I understood you can find that spectacular stuff really inexpensive. And this show is unbelievably large. It's the whole city. To give you an example, they have like 80 locations, and the convention center, which is completely taken over by this show, is just one of those 80 locations. And not the biggest. We didn't know how to do this. And we've heard from a lot of people, if you don't plan your trip out, you're just going to feel like you wasted your time. So I used ChatGPT's new deep research tool. It already knows to ask you questions when you tell it what you want to do. And I wrote a long prompt about what we were trying to accomplish, and it built an entire agenda for us. It did not only did it give us a schedule of where to go and in the right order, so that we would be finding the kinds of things that we wanted to buy over over the 3 days that we were there, but also when to start to negotiate to get the best deals, how to negotiate with certain vendors, which vendors had the types of things that we wanted, where to eat in between in the morning and then at lunchtime, and then where to go that was nearby, because it's different parts of the city. And also to prevent us from doing a lot of driving, it really organized. And it did this. Again, it took about 10 minutes for it to produce this. And we followed the agenda. It was an excellent agenda. So I take it out of the marketing context, because now as marketers, you can start to realize what's possible when you see examples that are really outside of your context.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and those applications like that are, it's just so incredible, when you're talking about, that basically that workflow that you had in searching for that one particular piece to decorate your home. What that could easily be the workflow that you need to develop a new product or whatever it happens to
Exactly.
be and launch it. And so, great example. I really appreciate that. Now, AI can also be used on research, and it can certainly accelerate that research. From not only product research, but also, general market research. And so tell us, you've developed a methodology there. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right. So with Launch First is a methodology to basically prove product market fit. If you're at an inception stage of your startup, and my world is SaaS B2B startups, right? So it's really designed for that, but it would the concepts apply to any kind of startup or any kind of product launch, whether it's an existing company. Now, if you're Maybelline and you're coming out with a new type of mascara, that's not the right fit for this, because you already know who your ideal customer profile is, and you know how to reach them and the language they care about, right? So your marketing department's all dialed in there. But if maybe you're just going after a different age demographic or whatever, but because of all the signals you've had, so that's why you're coming out with this product. If you're an e-commerce company, this wouldn't be for that. But if you're selling a service or a software product or a technology product, or a hard product, and it's new in the market, you don't know who the ideal customer profile is, and that's the problem most startups deal with. And new product launches that are not in that ideal customer profile target to begin with. Who is that ideal customer profile? That's what's so hard to nail down. And how do you speak to them? And what's the value proposition? It's all of these things. And you want the early adopter when it's a new product. So how do you figure out who that is? So with Launch First, we have this methodology to identify all the possible niches you can market to, then all of the root level problem statements that you are addressing with your product. And a root level problem statement is not the generic problem statements that you normally hear, but it's the one that starts with, I feel threatened because if I don't solve this problem, my future in some way is going to be much worse, right? Just fill in the blanks along in there. And that's a root level problem statement. It might be that your career is being threatened because you can't get control of your employees because there's some disgruntled employees that are, or might be your restaurant, you're going to lose your reputation, which is on reputation websites, because it turns out you've got a bad server in one of your restaurants that's making customers leave unhappy. You didn't know it until they leave a 1-star review or whatever the problem is, right? And both of those could have the same high level problem statement, which is I don't have the information I need when I need it to make critical business decisions. So that's the difference between a high level and a root level. So we list all the root level problem statements, all the niches, and out of that, then we score all the intersections between all the problem statements and the niches. And we score them on 2 levels. One is how much does that problem statement cost that stakeholder in that niche? And a separate sheet, how much is the perceived impact that that problem statement has for that niche, with that niche. And those are 2 independent numbers that we measure. And then we bubble chart these. And then all of a sudden, the ones that float up to the upper right that have a high perceived impact to the problem and there's a high cost to it, because those are really independent numbers. One of those 2 or 3 niches, one will be your early adopter. And then you do deep dives on those to figure out which one. But this is a very long and difficult, tedious process. Requires collecting a lot of information from a lot of places. It's easy to do this incorrectly. And so AI is just invaluable at helping us achieve this. In fact, we're building an AI model that will automate that entire workflow to do all this scoring. But this is a perfect example of where Launch First is using AI to nail down that early adopter, the value proposition, the language why this is such a high value and high perceived impact to them, what the right pricing model is, their willingness to buy, market size, all of these different things are critical in making that decision before you then go out and test to see whether you can actually sell directly to those people before your product is even built, because that's the whole goal here.
Yeah, that is interesting. There's a handful of phases, especially for a new startup, a new technology startup. The first one is obviously getting that first sale. I mean that's like big joy. We finally sold something to somebody on what our idea was, and then the next big thing, I call it the 10, 100, 1000, is getting your next 10 customers, and this can really
I go by that
be
too. I go by that too. 10, 100, 1000, 10,000.
Yeah, exactly. Because the problem too is when you're the founder and an engineer or a software developer or whatever it is, the first customer is probably a friend that you really know really well, and he's willing to kind of give you the benefit of the doubt, take on the risk, and and get things working and help you to actually get there. But getting that second customer that you don't really know is very hard. The second to the 10th customer.
Right.
And then once you get, those first 10, you got to get to the 100, which is now you really have to have a machine. And it sounds like what you're talking about with Launch First and then supporting that with AI can, first of all, speed that process and get, those answers that you need so you can really accelerate, and with less risk and more certainty how to get that 10, 100 and then the 1,000, customers as you're trying to grow.
And less cost. And if you can't get there, you fail for a fraction of what you would have failed for if you go what the typical route is: MVP, pitch deck, try to raise money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wonderful. So now AI is, of course, great at planning and strategic planning. So tell us how you use that to, organize plans and maybe expand on those plans and refine and improve them for what you're building.
Okay, so for marketing, for for developing a product, we use AI for all of that. So one of the things now stepping out of marketing again, just to talk about it from a planning perspective, one of the things that we think that we're particularly good at is how we do our estimates, project estimates for a software project. They're very detailed and they're accurate, and we deliver on time based on the estimates that we give to clients, assuming they don't change scope in the middle of the project. And most software companies do not do that. They're not on time. They're usually off by, factors, X factors, not just like percentages. And we're actually usually within 10%. In fact, with our largest client last year, and we did estimates throughout the year on all of the new capabilities that they were building, and we were off by, I think, 6.5% off of our estimates for the entire year and all the builds and releases that we did for them. So that is something that we are really proud of. To do that, It's a very time consuming, costly process to do these estimates. We are now just finished the first release of a tool that we built that's AI driven that will actually make us even better than we are now in building our estimates based on the same kind of methodology that we use. So it mimics our estimation process, but uses AI to actually extract all that information and to organize it into our plan. And our estimates are not just how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, but also the team size, when individuals on the team need to be scheduled into the project to deliver their part of the project, and over what period of time. This is what the AI model is doing. So from a planning perspective, that's an example of using it at a really granular level to create and make adjustments to plans as things change. And on the other side, where we're talking about marketing, then we use it all the time to put our plans together for how we're going to do outreach to customers and how we're going to build social campaigns, what kind of campaigns, what's the messaging, creating all the drip campaigns, on and on. And we use it for pretty much everything. And we just keep building our own internal workflows that pull AI in at different steps in the workflows to accomplish specific tasks that can automate all of our marketing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And that planning process and getting it right, especially in a software development arena where, every every day that you're off, costs you money or costs your client money. It's never good. And
Right. It's
actually,
never
it's not
good.
only just a cost issue, it's also the timing, because that the time to actually that you might lose in lost sales is very, very high.
Yes. Yeah. And for us, it's a matter of building marketing momentum and building our referral networks. And all of this
Mm.
AI is really good at helping us identify potential partners that we can work in and how to approach them and why they would be good partners, and giving us that whole constellation of information that's necessary to really nail down and have really effective meetings when we do connect with these people.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking about strategy and planning. Now let's talk about execution. One of the
Mhm.
things that AI really can do is the personalization at scale. And so that when you do your outreach, I guess whether it's email or maybe any other kind of personal outreach, whether it's maybe a text, talk about that personalization component.
Okay, so on the personalization side, we use AI to go out and identify. First of all, we come up with a list of potential targets, and then it picks one person on the list and starts to look at their LinkedIn and look at their social profiles and any emails, if we've had any email exchanges with them, and develops like a social persona from a buying perspective, depending on the type of target it is. And by doing that, it can create a really personalized drip campaign that speaks directly to the issues that are current with that person, so that when they see the campaign, it feels like somebody read about them, is responding to something that they may have posted somewhere, and is engaging them in a way that is organic and meaningful. I know when I get those emails, I don't care how the email was generated. I appreciate those emails engage me, and I open them, and then I'll click a link or reply to the email and start to engage those people on the things that matter. And usually it's from people that are reaching out to me on something that I happen to care about right now, not on something that they're trying to sell me that I don't care about right now. Because when AI is doing its job, it's not going to send an email to that person about my service that doesn't need it today. So this is where AI is just so powerful, right? So if it sends 5 to 10 emails a day, which of course it can do a lot more than that, those are 5 to 10 incredibly well targeted emails that should, most of them, get engagement, as opposed to sending out hundreds every day
Mm.
and having 1% of them give you engagement.
Yeah, yeah, and that math too is easy to track and easy to determine what is really gonna, help you at each step of the funnel, and also hit
Mm-hmm.
the customer when they're, with the right message at the right time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, that's what a lot of people are doing today is really using AI in marketing specifically to personalize that outreach and just make it so much more effective.
Mhm.
So now AI in marketing is also used certainly for content creation. That's almost one of the first things that came up, and certainly for me came to mind.
Mhm.
As I was getting into it and realizing that, man, this thing can really, smooth and accelerate that process just incredibly well. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about what you found there.
Okay. Well, okay. There's different levels there. Number one, from the going back to planning, what kind of content should I be creating that is going to, one, make me an authority on something that my potential clients are going to care about right now? And then what are those topics? How should the structure of that content be created so that it's hitting on important points? What keywords matter from a search perspective today? How do I structure this content so that I am getting in the most optimized number of keywords in the right place? And then writing it in whatever voice is important for me to write it so that I'm engaging potential target customers and building that authority. So AI is just amazing at all of these things. If you are using some of the tools that are available to help with this, and also if
Right.
you're driving it correctly, because prompting is so critically important. Writing really meaningful, elaborate prompts. People think they can put in short one sentence prompts without creating a lot of context and providing examples and things like that. And they just don't get out of AI what they're hoping to get, because AI is not prescient. It doesn't have any idea what you truly need to get out of it. So if you don't give it enough context in the prompt that you write, then how could it possibly know what it needs to accomplish in the thing that it's creating? But it is getting really good at how it produces content.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, 5 years ago, or I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago, even, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't get the right data that really describes the environment of the business question, then you're not going to get a good answer to that business question.
Right.
Well, now it's the same kind of thing, except now it's building out the prompt to structure that prompt so you can really get the answers that you're really looking for that make then the most difference towards whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And
Right.
that is absolutely the case.
So here's a simple workflow for most marketers that they could follow, like regarding the content. The first thing is ask AI to do and use the deep research tool on what type of content, how should I plan to produce content so that I could, whatever you're trying to accomplish, build authority in my particular vertical profession. Let's say that's the thing that you want. And then ask AI to what type of content. But even before that, say, this is my goal, my objective. What questions should I be asking to put a plan together for this? That's the very first thing you should do.
Mm.
And AI is really smart and will dramatically change the outcome of what you're trying to accomplish. If you ask it to help you even think through, what should I be thinking about? What should I be asking? How should I approach this before I actually do anything? And it'll give you all that context. And then you can ask it, okay, here, those questions are good. Go ahead, please give me an answer to each one of those to start with. And then it'll do that. And then you can say, expand on your first answer, because I put a plan together to execute on that. So let's say I want to become an authority as a software developer. So what are the topic and who are my verticals? I want it to be in healthcare vertical. I want it to be for small to medium product related healthcare companies that are selling into healthcare. So let's say I'm going to pick that market. And I say, is that a good market for me to be trying to go after? Is that the best? Is that one that's rich in terms of opportunities for software developers? And if it says, well, yes, but here's some others that are even better, and say, okay, let's focus on the one it thinks is best and ask it why it thinks it's best. It'll give you that information in advance. Then say, okay, now I want to build content strategy for becoming an authority for building software that would engage the buyers of software development services in that market. What questions should I be asking? And then do it again. And it'll give you the questions. And just keep going through this process until at the end, you've got an entire execution plan, a list of topics in the right order, the length of the articles, where you should be pushing different articles of different length, or videos, or podcast interviews, or whatever it is. and you'll have a whole strategy and a schedule, and then you can worry about, okay, now how do I automate all this? But just getting the context and the architecture together for what's going to create over the next 3 months, let's say, what's going to create authority in a world where I'm going to generate a lot more leads that are coming at me because of the authority I'm building.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes so much sense. Man, I wish we could keep on going. You've got some great points here and certainly a lot of help for, the audience. But let me ask you one last question, and that is, so what advice would you give to an up and coming new marketer as they are now almost competing against AI for that job and for that value that they're trying to provide as they get out into the working world.
Well, if you're competing against AI, you're going to lose. So, and not because, well, for obvious reasons, right? AI costs almost nothing, and the results that it gives are pretty spectacular in a lot of cases. So, don't think of it like that. Think of it as how you can bring and facilitate AI to create better marketing outcomes for the people that you're talking to. So shift your perspective. Become an expert on AI in marketing and come up with lots of scenarios and examples of how you've used it and created things from it that would impress the people that you're trying to either market to or get a job with or whatever, because that's what they want to see. They want to see people that understand how to make AI really fly in their organizations. And if you can show them how you can do that, you're going to be at the top of the list in terms of being hired or being contracted or whatever role you're playing in marketing to the company that you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think you're right, and you said it early on too, which is, AI has to be your best friend. And this, that answer is clearly the way that you have to do that. So,
Oh,
how,
and say please and thank you when you're talking to AI. I did that from the very beginning just because I was so appreciative of the value I was getting from it. And I wanted to confirm that I got the right answer. So I'd say, thank you, that's perfect. Because that would help inform it that how to answer the questions in a way that I was right. And there have been studies done since then that if you're really nice to AI, you get better responses from it. Nobody really knows why. Plus, what happens if AI takes over the world? I wanted to remember that I was really nice to it.
well, it is going to take over the world. That is the challenge. So I like what
Right,
you're talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess the please and the thank you, or at least the thank you anyway, is a confirmation that the answer is better than it might otherwise have been. So therefore, you're kind of giving it some feedback that may then be used to, be incorporated moving forward.
But if you ask it nicely, I always
Yeah.
said, please provide me the whatever. You get better answers. There's, like I said, there's actually been studies to prove this. So, and I know from my own experience that it matters to do that.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Well, I hate to say it, I'm going to start doing that. So, thank you for the thank you for the advice. That's pretty good. So, where can folks reach you and learn more information about you and your company?
Yeah, just go to tekyz.com, and Tekyz is spelled Tekyz, or you can email me. The email won't be in the link, but if you made it to the end of the show, I feel like I can share my email with you. It's david@tekyz.com. And I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, David Hirschfeld. There's probably be a link in the show information below, but I'd love to hear
Yeah.
from you. You don't have to necessarily be a potential customer. If you just want to chat or you have an idea for a product, you just want to throw it at me and brainstorm, I'm happy to do that. I love to do that, in a mentoring capacity. If nothing else, I can
Yeah.
give you some direction.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, thank you for that. And so it's tekyz.com, tekyz.com. David, thank you so much. This was really fantastic. And for our audience, definitely stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of marketing and AI. And if you'd like to, please download other excerpts for my book and other information at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. David, thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Guy. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.